This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And joining us now is the great political guru, John Fund. John, you were talking about term limits, and everyone's talking about Congresswoman Kay Granger, who they suddenly figured out why she hasn't been around that long. She's still a sitting member of Congress. She's been in a nursing home for 6 months. I mean, that's shocking.
Well, it's even worse than that. Look, she has missed over half the votes this year. And she is in a home. They say it's not a home for dementia patients, but it does have a lot of, shall we say, memory courses and memory treatments. So let's just say that her family admits that she has dementia. I have enormous sympathy for her and her family. But why is she still collecting her salary and her benefits and leaving the district unrepresented and no vote? It's appalling. As a former member of Congress, she would have full health care benefits, so that's not the issue.
That's not really true, John.
Yes, it is.
I've been in Congress 28 years. I don't get 1 cent in federal help on health care. Not 1 cent.
When were you elected?
I was elected in 1992.
There are no health care benefits?
Unless you want to sign in like every other federal employee. There's no special plan for Congress. No. That's one of those myths that's out there.
Grandfathered in?
No, there's no grandfather. I've never known any member of Congress. There's no lasting health care. What you are entitled to is the same as any other federal employee, whether you're the mailman or whatever you are.
Extremely generous.
What's that? I tell you,
Excuse me. Look. Let's just not argue about this.
No, I'm going to tell you, that's one of those, John. That's one of those myths that's always out there. That's all.
For retirees. End of story.
Not end of story. The fact is, you can go through anywhere in the country and you find better benefits than you get coming out of the federal government.
Well, you guys, let's go back to term limits. Let's go back to term limits. Let's go back to Kay Granger.
Wait. I'm going to argue with Peter King. Well, the benefits of the federal government is you don't have to go to work 5 days a week.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to argue with you there. That's a different story.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, after that laugh track, we're just going to move on.
Exactly. Exactly. But you know what's worse, actually, getting back to the original topic, John, your point about Kay Granger. Did you know also her social media has been active? So it looks like it's almost like the Biden, like somebody's been running somebody's running her social media to make it look like she's here or there, doing this, doing that. And meanwhile, she's sitting in a nursing home for 6 months.
Yes, and let's have the former congressman defend that.
Oh, Peter, can you defend that? Peter?
No, listen, any individual can abuse anything, and that's an abuse and should have been found out if the media were doing a better job, if her opponents would be doing a better job.
It's the job of
indefensible.
The media to protect the taxpayers.
No, it's indefensible. It's indefensible.
That's a fresh one.
You know what, though?
I'm saying, John, it's the public. Everyone has an obligation. Our staff had an obligation. But just because one person did this, you don't reflect on the entire Congress.
Staff has an obligation to turn their boss in and lose their job?
Yes.
Give me a break.
What are you saying? That nobody over the age of 80 should be in Congress?
No, I'm simply saying that we need term limits, and boy, do we need them
now.
No,
listen, I disagree. I'm with Henry Hyde. He said they're un-American. To me, the best term limit is an election. I've gone through them.
So you want to repeal the 2-term limit on presidency and all the governors?
I would put the president in a different category because of the power they have. But members of Congress, it's every 2 years. It's local.
What about the 42 governors that have term limits?
I think it's wrong. I think it's a bad idea. But certainly for Congress. I've been there.
For every governor, you want them to run forever. Kathy Hochul can run forever. What a genius move that would be.
John, unlike you, I believe in the American people. I believe in the American people and the democratic system.
Well, I'm going to say one thing. Look what happened to the city council. Instead of having gray-haired people that were in there forever, we end up with the assistant of the assistants of the assistant. And that's what we're down to. And some of these people don't know crap.
Well, I think, by the way, what we can all agree on is transparency.
Yes.
Because, John, what you're saying is also in the case of this, of Kate Granger, for example, I'd like to know who else was on the committee, Republicans and Democrats, because they should be coming up.
There was a giant cover-up.
Yes, I agree with you.
Not there. And remember, the Appropriations Committee is an extremely important committee. I think the congressman who used to be on it would agree with that. Look, the bottom line is this. If you put term limits to a vote in New York City, it would pass overwhelmingly. If you put term limits to a vote in Nassau County, it would pass overwhelmingly. If you put term limits to a vote anywhere in the country, it passes overwhelmingly.
Term limits in New York City has destroyed the city. Term limits in New York City has destroyed the city.
One place. Just one.
John, term limits in New York City has destroyed the city.
John, this is Craig Eaton. I was the chairman of the Republican Party here for 10 years in Brooklyn. And you know what? I agree with what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I hear what the congressman is saying as well. But I think there's a middle of the road. I think that in order to solve this problem, we should have term limits. But I don't think the term limits should be short. I mean, we should give people enough time. For example, like the congressmen have to run every 2 years. That's ridiculous. You win, and then the next day after you win, you got to start your reelection campaign. I think you should have a longer term for Congress.
Finance reform, and that would be a separate issue.
Yeah.
You want to discuss campaign finance reform, which is what you're really talking about. That's a separate subject and can be addressed separately.
No, I'm not talking about campaign finance. I'm talking about just.
You are going against what about 75% of New Yorkers have expressed over and over again. We want term limits, and that you can't argue with that many people easily.
No, I'm saying term limits are okay. But you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. You have to take it on a case for each office. You have to look at the office and figure out.
So what would you make the silly council?
The silly council. I don't know. The silly council, like John said before.
Council, I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy what's going on there. What you have.
Instead of having gray-haired people that knew what they were doing, you know whose fault it is? It's Judge Weinberg's and Peter Vallone's.
All right, let's know my objection to my client, Judge Weinberg. Take your Fifth Amendment right, Judge.
John, wait, I think we
the
need
judge has rights.
We need a response.
John Fund, I hope you're having fun. John Fund, I hope you're having fun. I hope you're having fun.
Made my Christmas very merry with arguments that most of the city's residents of New York would just find as protecting incumbents who haven't done their job.
Go ahead, Judge Weinberg. Go ahead. Your turn.
I just want
to defend himself
clear.
now.
I want to be perfectly clear. When Ron Lauder got the idea because he couldn't stand Rudy Giuliani, and he came up with the term limits gambit, Peter Vallone and I and the city council opposed it. There were votes. Twice, John Fund is absolutely right. Overwhelmingly, we lost. Our argument was you're losing institutional memory. You are having people who are just hustling for the next job, and that the bureaucrats and the lobbyists would have and the unions would have the power. But we lost.
If the older members stay in office long enough, they will lose institutional memory because they'll lose their memory.
Yeah, they'll lose their memory, period.
John, just I voted against term limits every time, and I was reelected for 28 years. And the voters knew I made it clear I would never, ever vote for term limits.
Can we go back to your health insurance?
I don't have any. There's nothing to go back to. I have none.
John Fund, final thoughts. Real quick. We got to wrap. Final thoughts, John.
Look, I don't believe the term limits are a panacea, but let me just say that the average age of a senator is now retirement age, and that means a lot of people who have new ideas and new concepts don't get into office. I'll give you just one example. They had a hearing on Wi-Fi, federal support for the Wi-Fi expansion, and people literally did not know what Wi-Fi meant on that committee.
Oh, my God.
In addition, Senator Orrin Hatch a few years ago asked Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, now, how is it in the world that you can make money by not charging people? I mean, you don't charge people for Facebook. And Zuckerberg looked at him like he was an alien and said, Senator, we sell advertising.
Yeah, that's amazing. And by the way, then on the flip side, you got 90-year-old Grassley, who's sharp as a tack.
That's right.
It's wild. Right.
And I agree. Right. But remember, if you don't have term limits, I'll tell you what's going to happen. North Dakota just voted to prevent anyone over the age of 80 from filing for Congress. I don't support that. I don't. But if you don't have term limits, you're going to get something far more draconian, which is age limits.
Yeah, no, and that is a concern. I hear you. John Fund, thank you very, very much. We love this great spirited conversation, John. You're terrific.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, John.
Thank you, John.
Merry Christmas, John.